Well, hey, Freedom Prayer Team. Hey, wasn't it awesome to be together on Sunday? What a great day that the Lord gave us. Thanks, Tim and Britt. We appreciate you guys so much, your gift of hospitality and just the joy of being in your home and of being together. So loved it. We missed all of you that couldn't be there, but hopefully the next time around we'll be able to catch you guys. I've got some very weird lighting in the room right now because it's pouring outside, so just trying to get you guys to see me. Anyway, one announcement before we head into the Tuesday tips. Planning Center, if you could go online and answer your, sorry about that, if you could answer your emails really quickly, like within a couple days, to accept or decline an invitation. There's just a bunch of people right now that are not getting to those as quickly as possible, and that kind of slogs up our process a little bit. So we would appreciate if you honor that and try to get on there and just make it a discipline to check every other day and see what's going on. Okay, Tuesday tips today is all about forgiveness and how do we handle the doing kingdom business under wounding with forgiveness. Now, I will say that just because there's wounding, it doesn't always mean that forgiveness is the go-to place. We want to sometimes just dive to places because we know that this is sort of where it lands. When we're wounded by something or someone, it typically is related to a person, a relationship, and so we assume that forgiveness is going to be the kingdom business. But sometimes the deeper wound is actually all about the ungodly belief that came as a result of this relationship. So we have to remember, we don't press the place and just assume and decide that's where we're headed. We've got to use our discernment for that with the Lord. So remember, 3 key parts. Remember when Jennifer held her finger up and said there's 3 sections to your finger. Remember to get all 3 sections. That was a great tip. So just remember, there's the counting the debt, the canceling debt, and releasing the judgment. We also have blessing people, but that's really largely a kind of an add-on and a bonus if you can get to that. We'll talk about it in a minute. But let's start with counting the debt. Super important, holy ground. This is where emotions will likely come up, but this is also where you're going to probably need to explain a little bit to people, especially if they've never been. Remember, we're in prayer times now that are not our team, largely. And so they've never heard this language before. And most of us didn't either until we started. So it's really important to talk about, what does that mean, counting the debt, especially when they're dealing with a parent or someone they're close to still. Gosh, that feels dishonoring in some weird way to think that they owed me something, or that I have to say that they owed me a debt. So that language can be softened. I just like the language, what did I need from them? Or what did I wish they provided that maybe they didn't? So maybe give them some extra options on that as they're talking about it. Okay, so you may need to, as people are counting the debt, they might get stuck because they still don't totally understand how this rolls. So you may need to help them give an example of something. Or sometimes if they get stuck, like I have sensed that they weren't getting to the deeper stuff that was really the issue, where they felt hurt. And so we don't want to put that on people and make up stuff, right? We always want to work with what the people have given us. But sometimes you can suggest something based on what a person has shared already. So for instance, if someone has said that their dad never spent time with them, or they felt insignificant and just felt like they had no value, you can use that later by saying, like, could you see if this lands for you, Jen? Does it feel true that you needed your dad to notice you, to think that you were valuable enough to spend time with, to show you value in some way, and you didn't receive that? And if they say yes, and a lot of times they'll just shake their head or start crying or something, but then you want to have them verbalize that. So then let's repeat that. Let's tell Jesus that. That's really, really important. I've had the question from some people, like, what if the person forgave, but they didn't actually count the debt up? Like, we moved and it was just sort of flowing, and we moved into this place of forgiveness, and they said they forgave the person and it felt like there was fruit there. But what about the debt part? And I posed that to Sarah, and here's what Sarah from Freedom Prayer said. I'm just going to read the paragraph to you because it's worth reading. She said, skipping the debt will keep people in the bondage of their trauma. Really important. For most prayer times, now again, there's always a what if, but for most prayer times, we don't want to skip the debt if the person is willing to count it, because we're helping them unlayer the hurt and the pain that is present and translating that into debt to help them. You got to help them name the specifics of what happened and how it made them feel and what they were owed. And so I think that's really important, because if you don't do that, they may never get to the feeling place. And that's a really important place to get to. Okay, now canceling the debt. This is super key. And I think it's a great opportunity to explore connection in a whole different way than we do it at the beginning and sort of throughout. So you're going to ask them if they're willing to cancel the debt and give it to Jesus. And if they say yes, you're going to have them ask Jesus, Jesus, can you take this debt? And of course, he's going to say yes. Or if they hear him say yes, they'll let you know. And then you want to ask them, like, Jesus, can you take this debt? And he takes it, give it over to him. And then you want to ask them, what did that look like? Or how do you know that Jesus took the debt? So you would start that question with, did he take it, of course? And if they say yes, then how do you know he took it? Or can you describe what that looked like when he took it? Because that is just really building on in a beautiful way their connection with the Lord and opening up some of that right brain screen. And it's not just words of forgiveness. It's like Jesus is gonna now shoulder that debt himself. Cancel and take it. And then there's this release the judgment part. That's the third part in the finger, right? So count the debt, cancel and release the debt, release the judgment. This part sometimes I feel like people do really quickly, because they're like, okay, this is the third step, this is the easy step. But for some people, this is actually the hardest step, because they can say words of forgiveness and even mean something, but letting that person off the hook isn't so easy for a lot of people. And like in that process, you have to repent of holding judgment against somebody. I mean, that's hard to do when you're still feeling pain, when you're just doing this for the first time. So remember, like this is layers. So let's just remember that if we can get them, into that place where they are releasing the judgment and they're allowing that to happen, you have to be gentle with that place. And you may or may not be able to move into the blessing part. We all know that blessing those who curse us, praying in the opposite spirit, that blessing is so powerful, but it just might not be time. So be real careful and use your discernment. Hey, Jesus, are they ready for this? Remember layers. That's what we're talking about, one layer at a time. And if they're not ready, we just need to not push that. So, okay, I think that's all I have for today, because forgiveness is super important and we're using it a lot. Take your time through the forgiveness process. Really let them soak into each aspect of those 3 or 4 pieces, and don't rush them through. It's really, really important that they begin to process the concept that they're doing and then make it real in their own life. And sometimes that takes space, that takes time. Would you just let them breathe and let them understand and then let them walk into it? So, all right, guys, love you. Hope that was helpful. See you soon.